So you're the founder of DB Wellbeing and E3. What is it called? E3 transformation?
E3 method is basically my method of training my clients. And over the years, obviously, you get more continuing education as a personal trainer and as an educator. And so I got my nutrition certification, my golf fitness, my yoga, everything. And so it kind of just morphed into this. Well, you're not just working on your body. You're not just working on the fitness aspect of it. You're also working on your mind and mind coaching, mindset coaching, things like that, motivation and nutrition. So the 3 pillars for me in my training method with my clients is basically, let's get your body right. Let's get your mind right. Get your eating right. And then everything will fall into place, right? So elevate your mind, elevate your body, elevate your world.
That's amazing.
The E3.
Yeah. And you're sober as well.
I will be 11 years sober on March 17th.
Congratulations.
Patty's Day. Thank you.
Congratulations. 11 years is amazing.
Thank you.
Were you just a drinker, drugs?
I was a drinker. No, I was a drinker, drugs. Yeah.
What prompted you to get sober?
I nearly crashed my car into a tree. That was my rock bottom, but I didn't know it was my rock bottom at the time. And I was a bartender, supplemental income for, it was like 20 years and all over the place, not just, started in college, then Ocean City, Maryland, huge drinking town, Florida, Costa Rica, back to Ocean City, back to Costa Rica, down to Florida, and it just kind of morphed into that. And less teaching, less, I don't know how you want to explain it, but yeah. And then I was studying for my personal training, something, and I was drinking, and I just happened to, it was right in front of my house, turning the corner in the Bluffs, and someone texted me or something, and I didn't pick up the phone, but I remember looking down at the phone. And that simple, right, going around that turn. And I went up into the grass and took out a reflector pole and was probably about this big from the huge tree right in front of my court. And all my neighbors were outside because they always partied. So they were sitting on the patio partying and and heard the whole thing. And, the next day I woke up and I was like, okay, which was St. Patty's Day. And I said, okay, so I'm not going to drink today. I need to get my car fixed. It was a brand new car. Off the lot, brand new, first brand new car I ever had. And I said, I'm not going to drink today, one day. I'm not going to drink tomorrow. I'm not going to drink the next day. I'm not going to drink until my car is fixed. It took 3 weeks for the car to get fixed. And so after 3 weeks, I was like, okay, started to feel good, started to feel a little clearer. And so I said, all right, let's see how long this lasts. And it's funny because that's exactly what people would say to me. They'd be like, oh, let's see how long this lasts, And I'm like, let's see how long this lasts. Totally, and I was now almost 11 years.
Wow. You got a taste of what it felt like to be sober, probably just from drinking so long you probably forgot. And what were some of the benefits that you felt over those 3 weeks until you got your car back that kind of motivated you to stay sober?
One of the biggest things was that nobody thought I could do it.
Pride?
Pride, stubbornness. Everyone was, oh, let's see how long this lasts. And people were giving me a hard time. I'm a bartender. That's what I was known in town and everywhere, And one of the other things was a friend of mine who I drank with every day said to me that she noticed that my face looked better. I looked clearer. You're not as swollen. You're not as red. You're not all those things. And I didn't notice it, but other people started to say to me that they could see a difference. And I just felt better getting up. That fogginess lifts. It was almost 11 years ago, so it's hard to really remember, but those are the things that stick out to me the most. But I don't think a lot of the effects really happen until after, it takes a long time for the effects of alcohol to leave your body. Even when the alcohol leaves your body, there's still things in your body that are recovering from the alcohol abuse. So it really takes months, if not a whole year till you detox. So
it's funny you bring that up. Mentally, I was unable to return back to my normal state of mind. It took about over a year for me to think logically and genuinely enjoy things. And I don't say that to scare the listener or the viewer who is drinking right now or doing drugs. That first year was still amazing. Don't get me wrong, because I discovered so many things about myself, and it was a growing process that I look back on and said I would do that first year all over again. It was that much fun. But I didn't really start living until, year 2 or, after year 1 of my sobriety. So I completely understand. And like yourself, the people telling you that, how long is she going to stay sober? That was my dad. My father was like, you're not going to stay sober. I know your pattern. And I was like, you know what? F him. I'm going to show him. And the stubbornness, it's like fake it till you make it almost. Like the stubbornness kind of got me through that beginning phase.
Yeah.
And then self-help bridged me, and a community bridged me to long-term sobriety and where I could really work on myself.
Yeah. And you had that community. I didn't have any of that. And I'll tell you why, because this will blow your mind. I didn't wasn't in recovery center. I didn't go to AA. I was almost 10 years sober, 9.5 years sober by myself. I only started the AA program a year ago.
Wow. That is so unheard of.
I know.
It's very rare.
I know. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, please fill us in. I'm curious.
Stubbornness. I can do it on my own. I'm fine the way I am. I've gotten this far along on my own. I don't need anyone's help. I manage it myself. All of those pride and ego things, right? And I mean, I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? So much would have been different had I just went. But I didn't have anybody telling me to go. I didn't have anybody putting out their hand and saying, here, let me help you. Let me show you a better way. Because there's character flaws that need to be worked on, and there's so much to learn. And so for 10 years, I'm 9 years, 9 months muddled through, and didn't really have the desire to drink, but didn't realize it was dry sober because I didn't know what it was, right? No one taught me. And then I had a life quake. To make it short, I mean, we could get into it, but I lost pretty much everything. And I found myself back in the United States after moving to Costa Rica. And my relationship fell apart. I had no job. I had no place to live. I had no car. I didn't know what I was going to do. And that was the first time that I was like, why do I even care anymore about my sobriety? The only thing I knew to go back to make quick, good money was bartending. And one or two people had said to me when I was living in Costa Rica, like, why don't you come to an AA meeting with us, And I said, no, I'm good. I've been it'll be 10 years in March. Like, I'm good, I'm fine. And when I got back to the United States, and then someone else had said to me, if you went to AA, some of the things that bother you about your significant other, about your fiance, wouldn't bother you because, you would realize that live and let live and this and that. And I'm good. And then when I got back, when I realized and the mat was pulled out from underneath me, and I thought, my sister had said, before you go thinking about going back to a bartending job or picking up a drink, why don't you go to an AA meeting? So I went online, the app, and I found a group in Delray that was online, a women's group that's absolutely amazing. And so I remember that first day in December, January, where it was on. And I'd first put on the Zoom, but I didn't put on my camera, and I just listened. And then, okay, well, I'll put on my camera and I'll show my face. And then, okay, I'll share. And then the next thing you know, I'm going through the steps. I've got a sponsor, and now I'm chairing meetings. I'm out open in recovery, trying to help other people, reaching out in recovery centers, trying to, speak and share my story and do all the things that we do,
How much has your life changed in the last year and 3 months when you started going to self-help meetings versus the first 9 years and 9 months of abstinence?
Completely different person.
Would you recommend, which way would you recommend for the listener right now who is trying to get sober or newly sober? Which way would you recommend that they go about their sobriety?
Oh, absolutely enter the program. There's no doubt. I wish I would have entered 10 years ago. I mean, I had gone to an Al-Anon meeting a couple times because I was in a relationship with somebody else who was drinking, who is an alcoholic. And had I been in AA, I would never have entered into that relationship in the first place. So, but I just feel lighter, and I feel that my sobriety is the thing I have going for me, that I do see things clear. I do think clear. I do let things roll off my back. I mean, even this morning in the gym, there's something that occurred that would have bothered me and stressed me out, and I would have been angry about it all day. And then I was just like, you know what? They're here. I'm here. I don't need to be involved. You just make better decisions about the things that you direct your time and attention towards, because you're like, live and let live, you know?
Yeah.
So many of those little things that I have to think about throughout the day.
Yeah, it's funny, your example about the gym this morning. I'm in a program, I go to self-help meetings. I notice that I have a lot of empathy and tolerance for others. And there was an instance last week where someone wasn't getting back to me about something. And I'm like, you know what, F this dude. You know, and I texted him again. The next day, I followed up, nothing. I'm like, F this dude, man. You know, like what? In my head, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And then I find out he has like this whole thing going on with his family that's very serious. And like a life quake, like you just said, he's going through that last week. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel terrible. I completely get it. It's just, I'm self-centered when I'm not working a program. It's all about me. Oh, you cut me off on the street. How dare you do that to me? Well, it's not personal. It has nothing to do with me. They don't even know me. And I'm open-minded and accepting towards other things. And, you know, I totally relate to everything you just said. Now, what was, you talked a lot about pride in the beginning, those first 9.5, almost 10 years. Where does that pride come from? Is that like an early childhood thing? Where does that come from?
Oh yeah. I'm stubborn. I get it from my father.
Yeah.
And, you know, it comes from all the accomplishments that I've had that I can do on my own with it, things that I've accomplished, also while under the influence. And I'm just proud that I can do these on my own, and I'm independent, and I'm able to be successful on my own. And I felt that way about my recovery too. And it definitely comes from my upbringing, and I've been able to turn it around. Whereas it's not, you know, sometimes it can be like a generational trauma because it's a bad character trait, but then sometimes it can turn around and be a good thing because it's a good character trait, you know? I work hard. I have a really crazy work ethic. And if I'm not working, I'm, you know, and get into that headspace and, you know, just stubborn, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it on my own. And I'm going to go 1 month. I'm going to go 3 months. I'm going to go 6 months. I'm going to go a year. I'm going to go 10 years. And 10 years, and it was never one day at a time. That's the thing, right? So it was constantly future tripping. I'm going to get to 10 years. I'm going to get to 10 years. And then 9 years and 9 months before my 10 year, my ex-fiance looked at me and I said, you know, what are we going to do for my 10 year? Like it was an event, right? And I made it into this big thing. And like, and he said, I just know I'm going to let you down. I know that I'm just going to let you down on that day. Because he had huge accomplishments in his career that, you know, but my biggest accomplishment in my life was, I'm going to let you down on that day. And I was like, wow, you know, and all the pride and all the hard work and the 10 years of, you know, this big goal that I set for myself. And I was like, Now you just got to stay sober today. You know?
Right.
Now it's just today.
Yeah.
Because that was like, to me.
So that was the big life quake that you refer to.
That was a big life quake. I moved my entire life to Costa Rica when I was proposed to. It didn't work out. Little did I know it wasn't working out longer than I was aware of. But he didn't have any intention of marrying me in the first place, so to speak. More like, let's just see if this works. But she's not going to move into another country and get rid of all of her stuff if I don't propose to her. So I'm going to propose to her and see if it works. And then right after a nice romantic vacation to Puerto Rico, you know, he came and said, I can't do this anymore. And you're going to go back to Florida and you'll come back in like a month to pack your things and I'll help you. But when I'm ready to help you and if you know, all that kind of stuff, it was just really like, oh, okay. Like, you know, but it wasn't about the life quake wasn't so much anymore about the end of the relationship. It was more about, oh my gosh, I have to rebuild my entire life and maintain my sobriety and reach the 10 years, which was 3 months, you know, it's like in 3 months. And I was like, how am I going to do this? And the craziest part about the whole thing is that I celebrated my 10 years at my sister's house, living in her guest bedroom by myself. They were all out to sports games with my nephews and stuff. And I made myself toast and eggs. And I just sat there and was like, here is this big event that you had future tripped about for 10 years. And you're sitting in your pajamas and you're eating eggs for dinner.
But did you enjoy it? Were you content? You started your journey at that point.
Yes, that I had just started. And I mean, I was on a meeting, obviously.
Yeah.
And when I started the meetings, when I got back, I was 2 a day. I mean, it was 1 in the morning and then 1 at night. And then if I, you know, so it was intense because I had nothing else to do but sit and look for a job. I didn't know that I wanted to come back here and personal train. I wasn't that same person. You know, so much had happened and so much was falling apart around me. And I thought, well, I can go anywhere. I can move to California if I want. I can move to Arizona. I can do whatever I want. So I was like, let's just kind of do our best to stay sober and try to avoid going back into the bar, you know, for that quick money.
So a lot of people go through devastating times in their life. I have had many life quakes, you know, just come to Jesus moments with, you know, I was married with my wife my ex-wife, with my family, getting interventioned. And I remember what I had to do, my plan, like the next few days, I would sit there and I would think like, oh my God, I'm at the bottom of the mountain and I got to get all the way up to the top. And for anyone who is down and out, that's very overwhelming. And a lot of people are just deter away from it and prolong the misery. What did you do to make it more digestible and comprehensible so that it wasn't like a tall, you know, order that you had to fulfill?
It's weird as you say that because I'm literally having this moment right now where I'm thinking to myself of being back in my sister's guest bedroom, having panic attacks and looking up at that mountain and going, how am I going to do this? And now I'm sitting here in this podcast with you. So a year later, that's a pretty full circle moment. This is a pretty full circle moment in itself. I was able to move back to Jupiter and stay with friends who had always said, if anything ever happens, if this doesn't work out, you always have a place to stay. That in itself was hard because plan B was never supposed to be the plan, right? It was only just supposed to be if.
Plan B, yeah.
And then I contacted a friend of mine, Scott Ferguson, who is a realtor, and I needed a place to live. And so he and I sat down for coffee to catch up, and I told him what was going on. And he said, well, you know, listen to what I've been doing. And I've been a mindset coach, and I'm willing to help you, to mentor you, and to help, you know, do this. And he did. He took me on as a mentee. And that's when I started into the mindset coaching. And I decided, you know, okay, what we do is we look at that big mountain and we say, okay, this is what we have to achieve. And then we break it up into small actionable steps. So it was like, okay, what do I have to do this week? What am I going to accomplish this week? What am I going to accomplish in this whole month? But I'm doing this week. And so it's more like he was the GPS to help me to get to where I needed to go without getting overwhelmed, without veering off course. And if I had to, we were able to sit down and talk and kind of look at the road and where we're going to go and what we're going to do and how I'm going to get there. And within like 3 months of that, I was being published in Authority magazine and writing these articles and doing these things. And it was just having that person by my side to motivate me, to help me, to tell me like, hey, I'm very, very hard on myself. And I mean, even in recovery, they tell me that you just put down the bat because you're constantly beating yourself up and no healing happens if you're beating yourself up. So put down the bat, and he would remind me of everything that I've overcame this far. And so when I would quick turn around and look and go, okay, well, I'm not living in my sister's guest bedroom anymore. And okay, my stuff is now moved out of Costa Rica and will arrive in the United States at some point. So it was having that person. And I was like, I want to be that person for other people because it was, a great experience for me. And so that's what I set out to do. And I have been, I was on the phone the other night with someone giving, sober support and in their first 30 days and talking about those first 30 days. And I have forgotten so much. Do I have to give up my friends? Do I have to give up the places I go? Do I have to I said, they're going to naturally give you up. You don't have to give up anything, but they're going to naturally fade off. You got to be ready for that. I'm like, oh, I love this. I love being able to help other people. And then, I want them to see what's available out there in the future for them and know that everything's going to be okay.
Helping other people. On this show, we talk a lot about it. I talk about it with guests and I call them self-esteemable acts. And for a long time, I couldn't look myself in the mirror. I was not happy with who I was. I had very low self-esteem. What do quote unquote self-esteemable acts do for you? Like you just said, helping that person who is within 30 days of being sober. Yeah, it keeps it raw for you and reminds you. But what else does it do for you, personally? And because yes, we want to help other people. We want to help others around us, but also too, it helps us in many different ways. What are some of those ways that it helped you?
I was just able to pay it forward to other people. It helped me stay on my path.
Yeah.
Because people are looking up to you. People are listening to you. People are watching you. So it keeps you honest. And it helped me to continue to push on to do what I wanted to do. I couldn't give up, right? Mm-hmm. Can't give up.
Yeah, and the accountability.
I might fail at all of this, but hopefully I won't. But
yeah,
I can't give up.
Yeah,
and that was it. And I don't really give up. And I think that was what bothered me the most about a failed relationship when it was like I don't give up on people, and not everybody is like that, and you have to learn that. And especially, and that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, so it's like it keeps me I have so many things to build up my own self-esteem. Like every morning I go in my mirror, I have all these sayings on my mirror that are important to me. And I like to share them with other people and, it just helps me give back.
Yeah. In terms of structure, so it sounds like you have a very structured routine morning. Did you have that in the first 9.5 years of, let's just call it abstinence, your abstinence period where you didn't drink?
If we can't control alcohol, we have to find something or someone to control, do we not? So yes, I was like, I'm like OCD type A in certain ways, but really laid back and lax in others. And absolutely. It was like everything is, and I'm a personal trainer. So like everything is by the hour, by the half hour. Everything is, and so that was definitely part of my sobriety, was just having that control over my plan, right? And that was also part of problems in my relationship too. And that wouldn't have been there had I been in the program and had I learned that that is a character flaw for me. And, you can only control your side of the street. You can't clean up the other side of the street. And so I think that's a good thing and a bad thing. Control is great and structure is great, but for your control and your structure, you can't do it for other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it like that structure and that routine, like the sayings you said that you have at home, and it reminds you, keeps you grateful. And it's so important to have gratitude, because for me, when I have gratitude, I'm less in here and I'm more open-minded and empathetic, like I was talking about the other day. I'm sorry, earlier in this interview. Yeah, the other day. But yeah, it's very important. Like that was life-changing for me. Implementing structure, meditation, reestablishing a connection with a power that's greater than myself. God forbid I say the God word, right? But no. What is the most common thing that you come across when you're coaching people that is almost a roadblock for them to kind of jump over and get that motivation to really chase, whatever goals in life that they have, or to bounce back from a life quake or an earth, a life shattering event?
I'd say just self-doubt, that they don't have the self-assurance that they can do it. See, I know that anything I put my mind to, I can do if I put my time and attention to it and effort, right? Everything takes a lot of effort to do. And if that means you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning and you're saying no to all your social invitations and you're focused and you're doing your work, but a lot of other people don't have that stick-to-itiveness. They have self-doubt. They're like, well, you can do a podcast, but I can't do a podcast. No, I could create and do a podcast if I worked for it and stuck with it and focused on it, didn't get distracted by going out with friends and going, to the bar and to all other things. So I think it's really just like being able to constantly have somebody to reassure you that you can do anything you want to do. You just have to stick to it, and having that person that kind of, and my coach did that for me when I had self-doubt. It's like, look how far you've come. Look what you've done. And that's showing, and I'm telling other people like, but you've done this and you've done that and you're doing this. And, so I think it's just the self-doubt for me, at least.
Yeah. What is one of the best practices to implement to get people out of that self-doubt mindset? And I'm sure it creeps back in if you're not doing it's like working out in the gym. If you're not doing those practices, even with sobriety, if I'm not going to meetings, I'm a madman and I'm probably on the verge of drinking again. What are some of the practices that you have some of your clients do on a daily basis, weekly basis to stay out of that, self-doubt mindset?
They have the God wording of the give it to God jar, right? Or a gratitude jar, or whatever you want to call your jar, of writing down your accomplishments or your positive things for the week and putting it into the jar. I've always kept a jar. And so being able to go back and remind yourself of what you've accomplished, and when you doubt yourself. And I still have those moments. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just, when you're an entrepreneur, it's like this, right? So like I can be all the way up here today, and then tomorrow I'm like, oh my gosh, none of this is working. And I just spent all that money for no reason. And I just, and then the next day and so that self-doubt just hits really hard when you're down here. And then I have to go back to the jar and I take out the piece of paper in the jar. And it's like, yeah, but I did that. And I did that. Then if I can do that and I can do that, I can do this. And then to keep stepping forward.
One of the biggest things that I've learned on this journey of starting my podcast, and, I worked at Google. I left a very steady job, good career. They wanted me to move back to New York. I'm living in Florida now, obviously wanted to stay here. So I resigned and started the podcast, and you hit it right on the head, the ups and the downs. It's not even days. It's like 1 hour. I'm like, this is going so well. It's going to do great. And then I'm like, oh my God, no, wait, this isn't working. I just messed all that. Like I invested all this time, or I invested money in this and it's not going to work. What I've learned, you have to, so I started really drilling down on some of the goals that I set for myself and really established two types of goals where I need to really strive for those goals. Like it's going to take hard work to accomplish those goals. And then I also created smaller, achievable goals to kind of keep me motivated and to remove that self-doubt here. I mean, it still pops up. We're human, but it keeps me structured and on a path. And it's almost like a mouse with cheese, leading them along.
Breadcrumbing yourself.
Exactly.
Is what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I found that to be, to work, to help me. And, because when I'm left to myself, I'm comparing myself. Ian Bick has a podcast. I don't know if you know who he is, but he has Locked In podcast. His podcast is huge. It's always top 50, Spotify. In the US, he's my business partner and a very good friend of mine. I tell him right to his face. I'm like, dude, I compare myself to him a lot. He's been doing this 2 years longer than I have. But you have to humble yourself and ask him how he got to where he is.
Absolutely.
He's 10 years younger than me. And for me, that's a bit like I'm 39, he's 29. And I'm like, I got to ask a 29-year-old how to do that. Well, he's doing it and he's doing it very successfully.
Yes. Well, first of all, they have an edge on us and I'm older than you. So by a little, but they have an edge on us in all of this anyway, right? Because they grew up in that culture of like the Instagram and the social media and all of those things. But we all compare ourselves to somebody else, but you should have somebody that you strive to compete with because it's healthy for you and it's good for you, right? And you don't with him, it's different because you're good friends, but you have no idea what that other person is going through or what they've been through, or it's like comparing yourself to somebody else in the gym. Somebody can look at me and go, wow, you're in great shape. That's awesome. Then I can take out my phone and show them an x-ray of my neck and my back and go, oh my gosh. And I go, but I'm in great shape despite that. So what's your excuse?
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have no idea, but yet you can compare yourself to somebody else because it makes you want to work harder and be better and strive for more. And that's great. But don't forget, you don't always know what they're going through or what it took for them to get there. Right? And there's a lot about my story that nobody knows. I was just talking to my sister about it on my way here. And I was like, what if I, do I share this? Do I share that? Because mom and dad don't know that. Am I going to have that conversation tomorrow night at dinner and be like, hey, mom, dad, by the way, there's
a podcast coming out.
There's a podcast.
Talk about how I lit your car on fire. No. So comparison is huge, especially with social media. I know I've done it. Many of my friends go on hiatus because it's not good for the brain, for the mind, it's not good for yourself. And unless you're, genuinely checking up on friends that you and people you care about or looking for something shopping. But what is your biggest defense, or at least advice that you give to people to get them to stop comparing themselves? Because comparison is the thief of joy. I
know, it's so bad.
What are some of the tools that, you give to people you work with?
Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Like, I can only be better than the person that I was yesterday. I can't be better than this person on this podcast or that podcast or this guest or, that trainer or that influencer. I can only be better than the person that I was yesterday. And I can be the better version of myself. I might have a community. It might be a small community, but it's a community, right? And to kind of just focus smaller and you'll grow bigger. But if you focus so much on comparing yourself to where they are in their journey, and I need to be here and I'm not good enough if I'm not there and I don't have enough followers. And I get caught up in it too, right? Because I'm like, In fact, I just did a social media experiment just for my own sake. I was like, I should probably say this on Twitter, but I was like, you can pay for the blue check mark, right? Next to your name now. Does really make a difference, but it's a mindset thing where when people see that, right, they're like, oh my God, this person, da, da, da. So I'm like, let's do it for 3 months and see what happens. See if it really even matters, right? How much I know, how much I don't know. This like tiny little thing that everybody strives for on their social media, right? That you can pay $12 a month for now. I mean, it's ridiculous what we compare ourselves to. Like, I don't have that, but this person has that. So they look more legit than I do. And you know, at the end of the day, does that make any difference about how educated I am and my experience and what I have that person doesn't have?
Yeah.
No. And people can compare themselves to me and they can say what they would or wouldn't do, but I don't know anybody else that would have left their entire life and moved to another country to be with somebody else. So when I come back and I'm like, okay, I'm a failure. Really, would you do that? Would you get up and leave the country to go be with somebody that, you know? So it's like, unless you're in the ring, your opinion doesn't matter. You're compared, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just stop comparing, but yet it's good to have those goals to like, well, I want to be like that. I want to be on a stage somewhere motivationally speaking to women and telling them like all these amazing things that I've been through and overcome and to motivate them. So it's okay to still have that goal. I want to get here and I'm going to compare myself to that person because that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
You know?
So then how would you, if you know, you were my coach and I wanted to get out of that, you know, move away from comparing myself to others, and I have a major problem with doing so. You just stated that it's good to have a healthy comparison mindset so that you're striving for some of those goals. What would be advice that you give to me to help me, I guess, minimize the amount of comparison that I am doing so that it is used in a healthy manner?
So first, I would say ask yourself what it is about that person and what their characteristics are that you admire first off, right? So what about that person you're comparing yourself to do you want? What traits is that you want? Make a list of that. Is that person good with people? Are they friendly? Are they outgoing? Are they cool and calm in this kind of atmosphere? And then you admire that. Like, what is it about them what is their characteristics that you admire and want, first of all? And then let's break that down and see, okay, well, what can we do to work on being more outgoing, you know, a better public speaker or whatever it is, instead of just looking at them as a whole and going, I'm comparing myself to them and I'm not like them. I don't dress like them. I'm not as in good shape as them. Well, okay, let's break it down because you can acquire all of those things, right? You can do anything you want.
Yeah.
Within reason. But that's what I would start. That's where I would start.
Would you recommend they get off social media for a little while?
Oh, absolutely. It's the biggest. And I hate that I have to be a part of it in order for business. I just said this yesterday because I work with my virtual assistant. I was literally having her do my social media and people would comment or it would get back to me like, oh, well, she posted this. So someone unfollowed her. I'm like, I didn't even post that. So like, but go ahead, unfollow me. It just means my niche gets smaller and my niche gets smaller and the people who are following me actually want to follow me. And it's just like, why am I going down this rabbit hole?
Yeah.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
Because really what needs to be done is I need to get out. I need to meet people and people meet me. And then they go on my social media and they see what I've posted. They're like, oh, she's legit. I mean, this is her story. This is what she's done. Like you, I never met you before, but you did a deep dive or whatever everyone does on the podcast to, you know, get to know me a little bit. It's not that I don't know what's being put out there, but I don't want to sit there all day and look at other things and compare myself to them because it just makes me feel bad about myself and makes me feel bad about where I am. I've done so much in the last year and it's been so overwhelming to do and with the help of others. I mean, I could never have gotten here by myself, but I certainly don't need other people making me feel bad that I'm not far enough, right? Because I know some people that never would be able to get to where I am. So to each their own.
It's crazy because when I am doing all the things for my sobriety, which sobriety suggestions and practices equate to a healthier lifestyle overall. It's about improving yourself as a person. And when I'm, doing meditation, when I am praying, when I am helping others, those self-esteemable acts that we talked about, I don't have, the insecurities will always be there, but how big they are and how much they're really taking control of me is contingent upon those things I just talked about. And if I'm doing those things, I'm less likely to compare myself. I could go on social media and you could put it right in front of me. And the cars, this guy's got a private jet, this guy's got a helicopter, and I won't give a shit because I know where I stand and I built myself from the core. Mm-hmm. Again, is it always like that? No. But I'm also aware outside of, when I'm not in a great headspace, to know that it is bullshit and to keep it moving. It'll pass. Let's go. Yeah. I know that I need to take the action.
Yeah. Look where we are. Look where we live. I mean, you don't need to be on social media to feel that you're not making enough money, driving a fancy car, good enough, healthy enough. I mean, I guess the list goes on. I've been here 17 years in Jupiter. So if, you can just go into Publix and be like, oh, I wish I could look like that, wear that, afford that. Mm-hmm.
So for New Year's Eve, after the ball dropped, my girlfriend and I went to a party, and she goes to this party. She knows the family and whatnot on Palm Beach Island. And oh my God, it was great party. The people were extremely nice. Everyone was very welcoming. It was my own shit. I see this and I see that and I'm like, holy, yeah. And
I want that.
Oh yeah. It's comparison and it's my own shit. It's, but again, I've been in sobriety long enough. I've worked on myself long enough did I go off for an hour in my head for a little while? Yeah, 100%. But then I was able to bring it back and know that it's okay. Yeah. It's fine. It's really,
Yeah. I mean, we all do that. You're allowed to dream and admire the achievements of others and what they've been able to do. But, we weren't. Your path is your path, and it's your path for a reason. And what you're doing is amazing and helping many people that what they do may not be reaching these people and saving other people's lives and giving them, what you offer.
Yeah.
And it may not produce financially what you think you want, but it may produce in other ways,
How big is action taking in rebuilding your life or you helping one of your clients and getting them started on a path to, achieve the goals that they want to?
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to happen on its own. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm tired. I had a moment on New Year's Eve. It was at New Year's Eve. I think it was. And I just was sitting on my sister's couch and I was like, I forget what I was thinking about or where I was a year ago. I don't even remember New Year's Eve a year ago. I don't remember Christmas a year ago. I was in a very, very dark place for a while. And I don't remember much of it. So to be able to be sitting there and looking at my family all together after having just come off of a cruise and thinking about all of the action steps and all the things that I had to do and getting clients back. Or getting clients because if no one was coming back, they were like, sorry, we moved on to other trainers and getting a car and getting my stuff moved into and getting a house and just every actionable step that I had to take to rebuild my life. And nothing was easy. When my stuff showed up from Costa Rica, it was covered in animal urine. I mean, every single thing, every step was just beating me back down. Jobs turned me down. And it was like, I want to give up. And so I share those stories with other people. And then I remember sitting there on New Year's Eve and I just had it was literally 30 seconds of my eyes filled up with tears. My this feeling in my chest and my stomach of anxiety, and it just dropped. And I was like, I'm so effing tired. Like I just went balls to the wall for a year with all this, like, gotta do, gotta go, gotta do, gotta do, gotta build, and I'm tired. And then like within 30 seconds, I was like, girl, queen, fix your crown, stand back up, go play with your nieces, be present. Let's get that shit back on the road and let's keep going. That was it. That's how much time I allow for myself. But at the same time, it was like, yeah, I want to turn around and say to these people, like, yeah, I get it. I know what it feels like to be tired. I know it, but you still have to get up every morning. You still have to go to the gym. You still have to eat healthy. You still need to take all these actionable steps because that's what's going to make you achieve your goals and to feel good and stay in that positive mindset, right? Mm-hmm. So my experience is like also what I use to help other people stay and take those action steps.
How big is nutrition when it comes to leading a healthy lifestyle? And what advice would you have for the listener? Because I feel like America, we're an obese country and it's a problem here. RFK Jr. was brought on the Trump administration to really, focus on that. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think especially after, living in another country where there's so much organic, natural, wonderful, delicious food, if you choose to eat that. And coming back to the United States was one of the biggest challenges for me. Because, I'd been living on and off in Costa Rica for 25 years, back and forth, right? But never when I was in the place that I'm in as far as my own health and fitness. And so when I came back to the United States, I was like, it's just everywhere. I've always taught people about like the checkout aisle in the supermarket and all the candy is there and how, there is one aisle in the supermarket that should always have no candy for the moms that come through with their kids or the dads. So they don't have to deal with that at the end of a stressful shopping trip, right? The kids in the aisle, like the checkout, like I want this and I want that, all the candy, right? But it is, it starts from child, toddler age with snacks and foods in school. And then you've got kids that are playing sports and you're running around and the easiest thing to do is go through McDonald's. Mm-hmm. So there's that sugar right into their system at such an early age, that addiction to sugar, which we know is just as bad as cocaine, right? It does the same effect on your brain as cocaine does, right? Which is... we can talk about the sugar cravings you have after you cut alcohol out. That was one thing I remember from my 30 days. We can circle back around that. But, and I watch it with my nephews and it goes, on and on and on. And I think that our society has totally dropped the ball when it comes to, and if RFK can better it, then I don't care who does it. If Trump can do it, if anybody can do it, just focus on what we're doing to our society by creating this horrible cycle of making people fat and obese and then giving them drugs to make them not anymore and then losing all their muscle and then keeping them. It's just this whole, and what we're doing now is 10 times worse because now you're not even asking them to work out. You're putting them into a position where they don't even have muscle to work out, to exercise. So now they're losing all this weight and they're all off balance because they've never been like that. And it's just, it's hard and you have to make an effort to do it. And I get it. I'm lenient in some ways. I've become less strict with my diet. I used to count macros. I used to do all of that. It's like, okay, I don't need to be that regimented, that structured. I can loosen up. I can lighten up. I'll be fine. I work out. I'll burn it off. I'm good until I'm not. Till I go into menopause. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now you want to talk about how nutrition affects your body. All those years of I can do this and I'm fine. And it's my, and it's not even in your control. It's just a rabbit hole you can go down, but we really need to focus on it. And it's not as hard as people think it is. You might just have to go to 2 or 3 different grocery stores for things. You're not going to find everything in one place anymore,
Can you debunk some of the diets that are out there, like no carb diet, keto diet? What is good? What is not?
So I think it all depends on you, first of all, because everybody's body is different, right? Some people have allergies, some people don't, some people take things out for other reasons. As far as the carbs are concerned, this is what I say to all my clients. Your body is a car. In order for the car to go, you need to give it fuel, right? If you're running on empty, no gasoline in your car, you're going to destroy your engine. You're not going to get very far, right? Your body needs fuel. Carbs are our fuel. If we are not giving ourselves fuel, we're going to start to burn like the engine with no gasoline, and we're going to start to use the muscle for fuel. So you're basically putting yourself into a position where you're trying so hard to build muscle by working out, but you're either working out fasted or you're not eating enough and you're not giving yourself any fuel. So you're just burning the muscle away that you're trying to keep. Your body, same thing as the metabolism with the engine. If you're not giving yourself the food on a consistently throughout the day, your metabolism is like this, when you go run out of gas and you got to hurry up and go get gas, right? Well, I'm starving. I got to hurry up and I got to eat. So I'm going to eat because my body's craving carbs, AKA fuel, because it's been running on empty. I'm not giving it anything. I mean, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I love food. I love that I can eat. And I can, I may not always be able to eat the way that I do as I get older. And I pay very close attention to my body and how I feel. I went on a cruise. I came back. I started breaking out again. I haven't broke out in months because stress has left my life. And, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's the sugar detox. Duh. That's how our body's getting rid of, my body is getting rid of all of the sugar that I gave it on the, on the crappy food that I ate and everything else. But I'm like, I recognize that. Other people don't make those connections to what the nutrition and what they're putting into their bodies has the effect on their bodies. So yeah, I try to educate them on that too.
How important is the body piece of well-being and endorphins, working out? How does that play a factor into the 3-prong approach that you take?
I mean, I think it's one of the most important parts. I think they're equally important. I shouldn't say that. But you can focus on what you eat and you can focus on your mindset, but talking about actionable steps to work out and better your body, you actually have to physically go do something, right? You have to get up and get out of bed or stop what you're doing in the middle of the day and go do it. And that's the hard part. I have a lot of like little tips and things that I do with my clients to motivate them for that and myself. But I can give you an example in that in the last couple of weeks, I've been starting in the holidays and just, comparing where I was last year to where I am now, what I was going through then and what I'm doing, And so I started to feel a lot of anxiety. But I have also stopped getting up first thing in the morning really early and going in and working out on my own. And I was working out later in the day and kind of just changed my schedule around a little bit. And I began to realize and put 2 and 2 together that if I didn't get up and go and work out and have that alone time in my mind to think through things and get that out and have those endorphins released and all of those hormones flowing, my day went so much differently than it does if I get it done. Either early in the morning or, just having my music blaring in my ears while I'm doing it. And so that in itself, it's so much, the physical act of working out has such an effect on your body alone that, you can sit and listen to positive motivational things all day. That might get you fueled up and adrenaline running and for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then you're going on to the next whatever activity you're doing. But what you get from working out lasts so much longer. So it's so much more important. Yeah. And, in this society and culture around here, when people are retired and now they're traveling and doing all the things that they do around here on their free time after they've retired and they haven't worked out their whole life. And it's like, now they want to come back and say, okay, I need to exercise. I need to take care of myself. I need to lose this weight. I need to do that. I need to do this. And it's like, okay, you're still starting from scratch at like 70, 60, and you got to stay healthy in order to do that. So.
Yeah, it definitely sets the tone for the day when I work out. Yeah.
And I just want everyone, everybody always thinks, of course, that because I don't drink and I promote my sobriety, and that has nothing to do with my program and how I train my clients. I certainly don't sit there and say, I'm sober, I don't drink, you shouldn't drink either. To each their own. I will educate you on the effects of alcohol and what it will do to your body and, all of those things. But if asked, but it's certainly not something that I'll sit there and say, they'll come to me, well, I got to get rid of the beer gut, or I got to get rid of this, but I went out last night and had a couple drinks. And I'm just like, well, there's your answer. Now let's move on. I'm not like, wow, you should. Because, this is our culture.
So the closest to that I can relate to is when I went through my divorce and I got back into the dating world, I was sober. And, the girl I would go out with, once she found out I was sober, would be like, well, should I be sober around, as if I was premeditated going to, promote it. And that's not the case. No, when I drink, I crash my car. Everyone's wallet's probably going to be missing. Just bad shit happens. When you drink, no, that doesn't happen. So that's your thing. I mean, right. I'll tell you all the good things that happened in my life when I stopped drinking, but that's your thing. That is not mine, and nor is it really my business. So, and
it's interesting. The whole dating thing is interesting because apparently part of the reason why my relationship didn't work out was because I didn't drink. And, people will say, oh, I don't drink that much. Or no, I want to be with a sober partner because my ex was a heroin addict, or my other one was a drunk, and I want to be with someone who's sober. But they don't understand what it means to be with someone who is actively sober and partake in that sobriety. So it's like, you don't drink. Oh, that's fine, but then they feel, oh, well, then I felt like I couldn't drink. And so it's an interesting thing. And then their friends are like, well, his fiance doesn't drink, so we don't want to invite them. And you know how it makes you, it's making them question themselves and them feeling uncomfortable about their drinking or whatever. But that doesn't mean, and that's one of the character flaws that I talk about, is that I'm not saying I was always the best when it did come to them drinking or other people drinking around me either, right? Now I have a different perspective on it. But I think it's interesting when someone says to you, I mean, I've been on dates where people, once they find out I don't drink, I've never heard from them again, right?
Happened to me.
Yep. And that's okay, because like I said, with the social media and the unfollows, it just makes your niche smaller. Then you're not the one for me. But what you have to be careful, what I think I have to be careful of, is people coming to me and being like, oh, you don't drink, that's cool. I don't drink that much either. I don't drink either. And it's like, you don't drink or you're sober. There's two different things, because the people that will say, yeah, I don't really drink, that's just their way of making themselves feel better, but they drink, so it's kind of like, okay, so do you know what it means to be with someone who is actively sober and goes to, 3 or 4 meetings a week, or works the program,
Yeah.
That's different.
The dating world when you're sober is a very interesting place. How has it been for you have you been back dating the last year since, you and your ex split up, and how has that been? I
mean, I've been busy.
Yeah.
I've been really busy.
With work and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I am the person who actually takes the time to do the work and heal before entering into another relationship and bringing that same trauma into another relationship. So honestly, I'm open to dating, but I'm just learning and kind of taking it very slow as to not get back into something that, is going to be not productive for me. And I really just want to focus on my work and, not be distracted. Not saying that I won't, they always say, the right person will come and whatever, maybe it will, but I'm dating and I'll go out on dates and so on and so forth. But again, with the whole drinking thing, it's like, do you really understand what it means to be with somebody who doesn't drink?
Mm-hmm.
Because where I used to not want to say to people, I say, oh, you want to go out to dinner Monday night? Well, I can. I have a meeting at 7 online. But the way I would word it is like, I do a lot of online work. So just for me to say I've got a meeting at 7, I can't, is not saying I've got an AA meeting every Monday night at 7.
Yeah.
Right. So I've started to be like, well, if I feel to this person that I can't say openly, I have an AA meeting on Monday night at 7 o'clock, then that's not okay. That's not right.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
And then what are they going to think once they're like, oh, she's not just that she doesn't drink. She doesn't drink and she actually works on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. It's two completely different things. And it's wild because well, first off, the healing part that you talked about following what had happened last year with your ex-fiance, it took me 2 years. Not that I was caught up and still in love with my ex. I just needed to heal. There was a lot. It's a traumatic event, divorce, breaking off an engagement. Those are traumatic events.
Yes.
It took me 2 years. I thought I was ready after a year and drove probably, women crazy and, had to apologize. But it really took me 2 years, but it made me a better person.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I'm okay with that because I think that, number one, I'm not a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't need to find that next string to cling on to right away before letting go of the other one so that I can make myself feel better. I know that what will make me feel better is to heal and learn and reflect so I'm not bringing that same trauma onto somebody else, right? And anybody, not just narcissists, but there's healing from narcissistic trauma that you need to go through after ending relationships with, in that way. So I don't want to ever hurt anybody else the way that I've been hurt.
Yeah.
And that's my responsibility to make sure that I don't do that and bring that onto somebody else because that's not fair.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I don't take relationships lightly. And I've been single for a very long time. And I just posted yesterday, I worked a wedding with my sister over the weekend at in Boca. It's a big, huge wedding, and they were 23 years old. I'm going to be 47 next month.
23.
They were
what are
23.
they doing? What are they doing? I'm just kidding.
And I said, I thought to myself, like, I took a picture of me standing on the aisle. We took a picture, and I was like, if this is the closest I ever get to walking down the aisle,
That's
I'm okay
hilarious.
with this. I'm okay with this. But I had to walk away when I listened to the father-daughter dance and the speech because I was like, that's not fair. It took that dream away from my father. He took that dream away from my father.
Yeah.
So that kind of stung. So I was like, but I look at things a lot differently now when it comes to dating and when it comes to marriage. And so there's a lesson learned. And none of what I'm doing would not have happened if I didn't fall like that and I didn't have to come back here and it's insane.
Are you grateful for what happened?
Yes, I'm grateful for what happened, but I'm also, you always want to be able to have that, like, I think, like I said, it's like, I wanted that power couple, like, because you can achieve so much and these great goals and these dreams and build and grow and whatever else, but I can do it on my own. I always knew I could do it on my own. I've been doing it on my own, so I thought I wanted to share it all with somebody else. And I was like, you're just the wrong person.
Yeah.
That's all. And now I want to like take the time to really get to know the person before, but I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
So you baited us with all of these crazy stories that had happened earlier in life. Can you share one of them? Because now I'm curious. One that isn't going to throw you out there, and if your mom ever watches or
no, I mean, she knows some of them. Like I've been arrested twice. Once for open container, which I think in Ocean City, Maryland,
everyone gets that.
Gets that, right? And second one was for trespassing, but I was sound asleep when I got arrested. So that was hysterical. But skinny dipping when we were with a broken hand. Well, I mean, the stories go.
Yeah, I get it.
Busted elbow, 5 staples in my head, all that. But, I think the biggest one, driving down here from Ocean City, Maryland, just out of my mind with my girlfriend to move here, and staying up for 2 days, driving
17
down
years
here.
ago?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Rolled into Jupiter on Halloween, rainy Halloween night, and had no place to live. Stayed with some sport fishermen friends of ours and some captains. And, that drive down was just like, we're going to do it. We're going, let's go and load up on what's going to keep you awake for 48 hours to get down here. But I think the biggest, I said to my sister, it's like, let's just say I was not sober when I walked across the stage and collected my diploma from college. And I had graduated cum laude with a scholarship and was rolling across that stage to grab my diploma from the night before. And I look at that and I go, it just goes to show you. And my parents are amazing. Like they when I got sober, they didn't understand. They didn't know. They had no idea that it had gotten that bad. I had carpal tunnel syndrome. I had surgery. I was on hydrocodones. I was drinking. It was a bad combination. It was not good. And they didn't know. And I didn't live at home anymore. It was so out of their view. But when I look back to college and all of the crazy things and abusive relationship that I was in my freshman year and going for that, I said, on one side, I was this smart, educated, earned a scholarship, graduated, cum laude, and was, that picture. And then on the other side, it was all of the other stuff that nobody knew. And so it was like, well, my friends knew and, but it just goes to show you that you never really know what's going on behind closed doors, right? And that the parents who are like, not my child, but I also can turn around now and say, look where I am now. I was still that educated, smart. I was a functioning alcoholic. I went to work. I was productive. I taught paddleboard camp with kids and I, did all these great things. But yeah, there was a lot going on.
But the odds of someone getting sober and getting to where you are at now, well, the odds of someone getting sober in general are alarmingly low. It's ridiculous. But then getting to where you are today and kind of reinventing themselves in sobriety, the odds are even smaller. So if there are signs too, I guess from a parent's perspective, there are signs with your son or daughter, intervene.
Yeah. And one of the things that I know kids do this regardless if they're drinking or drugging or whatever, but one of the things that I remember the most about was just always being agitated and frustrated around my parents. And I know they know it too. And every time I came home, they'll say this to this day. Like every time I came home from college, I was out the door. I was never home. I was out with my friends. I was out drinking. There were times I'd be home and I'd be like, I'll go run to the grocery store for you and stop off and meet my friends at the bar for some quick shots. And because I had to go home and deal with my family. God forbid my parents wanted to spend some time with me while I was home from college, So it was like, I was always agitated with them, or I was always running around with my friends and was never home. And I was always, those are the things that are like, why can't if your child can't stay and be present and is always, that's some things that you need to look at and say, what else is going on? What else are they doing? Why did it just take them 45 minutes to run to Publix and get milk?
I did those exact same things. I would have, a ride planned to pick me up 30 minutes after I got home from college for a break or something. I would spend 2 minutes catching up with them and be like, all right, so-and-so's picking me up. See you tomorrow.
Yep.
And
yeah. I heard you talking about that in the podcast with Rachel about the plan. Mm-hmm. The plan was set. You know, you thought you're staying at this person's house. The other person was staying at your house and you're out all night. And you're doing all that. Oh, yeah. All of that.
Yep.
All of that.
Yep.
And part of it, you're like, okay, that's part of growing up. But the other part of it is like, you shouldn't be 14 on the streets drinking out of a 40. That's not,
no.
And I grew up in a Jewish household. So it's all of the bar mitzvahs and the drinking and all of that, started at a young age. I remember going to a wedding with my parents. We talk about it as a family story all the time. I went to a wedding in Jersey and we all got drunk. And my parents were driving us home. I was in college at the time. And on the Ben Franklin Bridge, I wanted my mom to pull over so I could get out and pee on the side of the bridge. Like I was I don't remember it. And then like we had to pull over in an alley so I could get out and pee. But I was like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, Debi, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time and, coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Thank you.